All right, here comes Tom, the founder of Given to Live out of Bristol, UK. There he is.
I'm
Here
here.
we are.
I'm doing good. Hold on, I need
What's
to
up,
turn
Tom?
the volume up because all of a sudden it's quieter. Do I need to wear headphones?
No, you're good. As long as you can hear me, I can hear you. We're good.
Hi, Jeff. Sorry, I need
Hey.
to help him because he's got no clue.
What's up? How are you?
Good, thank you. Hang on. What do you need?
The volume.
Sorry, there you go.
There we go. That's better. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing all right. How are you, Tom?
Even better now that I can hear better. The volume's gone up. That's good.
Right
That's
on.
good. Thank you for a very generous introduction. Much appreciated.
Oh, of course. I thank you for asking me to do this with you. I was thinking of you guys for a while now, and you beat me to the idea. So I'm excited that we get to link up again, man.
And I'm sort of noticing the T-shirt as well.
Of course, I had to shout out, where we first met, where this all began.
Yeah, and we met in person. I mean, as well as the interviews he did with us, way back at the very beginning, at when we took Steph to Fenway, and what was that, 18 months ago or so now.
Yes.
And we had the chance to meet each other, and Steph was struggling with facing cancer, which she'd faced for a while, and sadly over the last couple of weeks she passed. But we did what we do. We gave her something really special, and that's what we try and do for people. Make whatever their situation is special, give them something that they can remember. And as you know, it's always their choice, the band they see, so we've seen some interesting ones.
Oh, I know. And I mean, that's what fascinated, what my initial fascination with you guys was just in general with what you do. I was about to explain it before we connected live, but I figured let's both of us talk about it together, and you could explain it better than anybody. But what Given to Live does, in my opinion, is give somebody, or actually two people, the experience of a lifetime that they will forever cherish and they will forever hold close to themselves, because you guys not only give them a live concert experience that's unlike anything else, but you give them such a happy memory in a time that's probably not all that happy for them, right?
Yeah, and I'll agree with that. And the way, I mean, I don't like using words like slogans, taglines, but we say because you matter. And it's very much, you got a Pearl Jam T-shirt on. If we took someone to Pearl Jam, ostensibly the VIPs are the guys on stage. But the way we look at it, it's our guests are the VIPs. I don't care if it's Eddie Vedder or if it's Bruce Dickinson from Iron Maiden, who we've taken to, Corey Taylor. They're not the VIP. The person we take is, and we go with them and act as their PA, and it's, put them up in, hotels, cover their, every cost that we never want anyone to actually come out of pocket. Some people, can't get to a gig simply out of financial reasons, and we'll take them, say, to the merch stand. And I know that I've been with mums, dads, or whatever, who I can see on their face is like, oh God, I want to get that hoodie, T-shirt, or whatever for my son, daughter, cousin, whatever, and they can't afford it. And so we do that bit. So we don't want anyone to feel uncomfortable. And we were fortunate enough a couple of years ago that Eddie Vedder talked about us on stage, and he explained it incredibly well. Is like, we just go out of our way to make sure that our guests have nothing to worry about except for enjoying the show, and and as I said, it's always their show. And if it was Dolly Parton, so be it,
Yeah, I mean, I got to see you guys in action when in Fenway 2018, which we had connected a few times before that, and I think did an article or two and kind of became friends from afar. But to see it in action is something else. To see the expression and the joy on the faces of your guests and you guys too. I mean, I can imagine it's pretty special for you. But let's take a quick step back, because what happens is somebody who is less fortunate, or a family member or a friend, fills out an application on giveintoLive.com about their situation, about their struggle, about their health, about their poor health or poor living condition, whatever it is. They tell you about a concert or an artist that they love and what it would mean to them to be able to experience it. You guys go through the application process. You go through who you think would be eligible or who fits the requirement, what pops out at you. You link up with them. And then, as you said, you give them an experience of not only going to the concert, usually it's a destination, right? More times than not, you're either flying or taking a train and you're bringing them on a trip.
Yeah.
A all expenses paid trip, a hotel, an amazing concert ticket, a great seat. Then, like, that's not enough. Then you have like these customized tour posters made up for them.
Yeah.
Shirts, all sorts of gear. And it gives them something that not only takes their mind off of their really tough circumstance, but as we just talked about, gives them really the concert experience of a lifetime. But did I miss anything along the way? Like, that's kind of the flow of start to finish, right?
Yeah, I mean, that is very much a flow. And one of the things when I started it, having worked in different, I've worked with, I come from a place of having been homeless, having had addiction issues, this, that, and the other. It's been a long time, thank God, and I know what it's like to be on the other side, and miss out on going to a gig because I screwed up. Or then there's the other side of it where, it could be that there's, obviously we have no live music at the moment, but from where I am now, there's a local sort of 1,500, space venue that if you got real mental health issues, depression, you could have the ticket in your hand, and if it's the wrong day, you're not gonna be able to walk out the house. And so whether that person's 15 or 50, it's, saying to hold their hand is not the right way of putting it, but it's like, we're going to support you from your front door to that show, so you don't end up kind of, beating yourself up because you were having a bad day and you've missed your favorite thing. And also having seen and come across what government wants and this, that, and the other to get, benefits if you got injuries or whatever, our application form is very short to make it very simple. Then we speak to the person to find out a lot more, because I don't want someone to fill in, 5,000 word essay to say something. It's 250 words, give me a brief outline, then we'll talk and we'll figure it out from there. Yeah,
it's amazing, man. And you mentioned it just before. You come from a place of, you started this, you come from a place of much authenticity, meaning people start, petitions or organizations or things like this, not exactly like this, but in general a lot. And it comes from a place of, trying to make money or trying to get attention or recognition. You come from a place of trying to give back and thanks, and out of pure passion. I'm curious to go back a little bit, refresh my memory on this incredible story of yours. What was the moment, and what was the kind of the initial spark for you to say, I want to do this. I want to create this Give Into Live organization?
Trying to work out exactly years wise, but in 13 I was going to a workshop in Sweden. I was on a bus, you know, and listening to Pearl Jam's Alive, which if I've heard once, I've heard 1,000 times. And it hit me and I just burst into tears because I knew I was alive from a body emotional point of view, whereas it was very logical because 7 years prior to that, I'd actually died from an overdose. And if there hadn't been somebody in that room, I wouldn't be speaking to you right now. And while I was on this trip and this workshop, I was like, it's one thing logically knowing, yeah, you're alive, you made it, you know, you're 7 years clean, blah, blah, blah. And then it was like, actually, I need to celebrate this. What do I love? And I love travel. I love Pearl Jam. So I did a 5-show road trip in November 13. The one show was actually on my birthday in Oakland. And during that day, I went and did the early thing to try and get the rail and what have you, met some lovely people. And, you know, during that, met a couple of people who talked about similar but different type non-profits around music. And also during that day, there was a young lady who was ripped off by someone posing as a security guard. And she was in from Brazil and she got ripped off for everything. Came back from the cops and the Brazilian consulate with a bit of paper saying you can leave the country, you know.
Wow.
Yeah, so I went to the merch stand and it was kind of heartbreaking because it was like, I wanted a poster for my birthday and it was one of my least favorite Pearl Jam posters ever. So I didn't get it, but I bought it, but used the tube and went down the GA line fundraising for this girl, you know, because I've done fundraising before. And I was just like, okay, this woman's gone through this, she's screwed, let's help her. And then that kind of was one of many reasons, you know. And I remember a year or so earlier, I really wanted to see Pearl Jam in London, but I just couldn't afford to because I'd just got off drugs. I was on, you call it social security, we call it benefits. I just couldn't afford. I would have happily hitched, but just didn't have the money. And all these, there were lots and lots of little things just sort of started popping in. And my first thought was like, I chatted to a few Pearl Jam fans and said, your friends, and said, should we help people who can't go? And they were like, yeah, what a great idea. And then I just thought, you're either in or you're out. You don't just do it, you know, just for, you know, Pearl Jam fans and do it quiet. So it was like, right, let's, you know, it's going to be for everyone, and it's not going to be simply for terminal illness or people in wheelchairs. It's going to be depression, which, you know, you and I, people, you know, look at you and me, and if we're having a hell of a bad day, no one's going to know that I'm walking down the street thinking I wish I was dead, you know. So that's why the mental health side that we do and take people to shows who are, you know, have mental health issues is so important. We've taken people who survive domestic violence, you know, and I started by saying that we help the vulnerable and excluded. I kind of don't say that anymore because it gets a little bit annoying when someone says, yeah, mate, I'm vulnerable. Can I go and see this, when there's nothing wrong with them at all? So I'll just say disabled and disadvantaged because it's easier and you get less smart ass comments, you know. And I mean, I could sit here and another idea would come in and another reason, but that was it. And the reason that we, you know, you mentioned the posters, and when it's a poster, it's not only, okay, someone sing Pearl Jam, we'll do one. We'll chat with the person or their, you know, the person who applied for them. What is, you know, their favorite song? What's their this? What's their that? So that there's always something in the poster that relies to that person. I remember one girl had blue hair and she was, you know, just a small figure, but her hair was blue. So it made it really personal for her. The whole thing is, this is your show. This is going to be, you know, the only rule we have is on timings, if we have to be at times, and no junk food, because that would just be unethical. If you want a burger, we'll take you to a good burger joint. We're not taking you to a chain of
Mhm.
I won't mention chains, but you know, and that's the only rules. It's like you're, you know, essentially they're our boss for the day, you know, and that's, yeah.
It's a lot, and it's one heck of an experience, man. I mean, from if you that well, forget that for a second. Your story alone, I mean, your story alone is so inspiring. Um,
Thank you.
when you're talking about that, when you were fundraising for that girl in 13 at Pearl Jam show in 13, and to the point where you actually went live with Gibbons Alive, how long did it take you?
That was in the November 13. And what was actually, I'll just say on that one, what was really fun is you guys still have dollar bills. Here we have coins, you know, so there was a handful of coins in that, whereas here it would have been heavy with coin if people are dropping in, you know, so actually when she opened it up, it was literally this tube stuffed with money, you know, and it ended up being $300 odd and what have you. But because it was in paper, it just looked even better and blew her away. I had, like I said, I had the idea of like, let's do it for Pearl Jam fans, this, that, and the other. And then once I decided like, no, we're going to do it properly, I handed in my notice at my work, and April the 20 something in 14 was our kickoff. And you know, we know what we're going through now, and we were, you know, I mean, heartbreaking's too strong. It was just so disappointing. We were meant to be taking a young kid to see Pearl Jam at Oakland on the week of our 6th anniversary. So it was this whole full circle thing was going to happen, and then it was like coronavirus, no travel, and it was just like, damn, it was meant to happen. It was, and also at that time we'd just been given, and when I say just, it was a matter of days. You know, we've been working on it for a while. We'd just been approved as a 5013C, so it was going to be this whole, you know, celebration of 6th anniversary at the birthplace of Gibbons Alive, you know, and we'll announce, you know, we're a 5013C, and God damn it, we, you know, the whole world went in a different direction. But we, you know, we've chatted with the young kid and his family, and, you know, we've made him a 100% promise that whenever that show happens again, we'll be there. We're taking him. It's, you know, it's a done deal.
And you'll have something else to celebrate. It'll be twice as impactful.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Maybe it'll, I mean, you know, I don't know about when concerts are going to happen. It's, you know, to me, it wouldn't happen again this year, but then I noticed Ozzy's put out a tour here in November, so maybe they know something that we don't, because if you're putting out a tour when they're not going to happen, why would you do that when you've got a really good chance of cancelling? So, you know.
Well, Ozzy's exempt from anything that's a pandemic. Ozzy's on life number 29, so
yeah,
I don't think he may be playing. I don't know if anyone's going to go, but Ozzy's still going to tour. He's unbreakable.
Yeah, I mean, he'll call in Keith Richards to, you know, to play guitar, and they'll be fine.
Yeah, they'll just be bathing in it, and they'll still come out fine.
Yeah,
at 79 years old. I was thinking a lot about you guys the past 2 months because, you know, even aside from our small chats, because obviously, as we've talked about, a lot of what your organization does revolves around the live concert, which, as we just said, there aren't any for the year. How have you, other than that experience with Oakland, like, how have you guys, like, shifted and basically transitioned to adapt to what this year now is? How do you keep running?
Well, I mean, initially it was kind of, I mean, initially I really went into what the hell's the point? We've got, you know, however many gigs theoretically lined up, and now we can't do them. We're having to ring people and say, look, we can't. And it was almost, what's the point? We're not doing what we're meant to be doing. How can I dare ask someone to donate a poster for us to raise money with, or whatever? And that took a while, and it really affected me deeply, because I felt personally worthless, because I'm not doing what I'm meant to be doing. Given to Live isn't doing what it's meant to be doing. And I suppose a month or so later, give or take, I suddenly kind of shifted. We had this 501c, you know, which at first, my first thought was, why the hell did I bloody bother? You know, what's the point? You know, because they cost quite a bit to set up, whereas over here the government tries to make it as cheap as possible to set up a non-profit. Over there it's like, you know, and I was like, what's the point? We haven't got much money in the bank, da, 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 da. And then I just kind of got to a place where actually, let's consolidate. So let's keep raising funds. Let's, you know, get a board together for the 501c, you know, so that when gigs do happen, because I mean, without, you know, just off the top of my head, I know in the States we've got a couple of Slipknot applications, Green Day, at least 2 Pearl Jam, and I know there's going to usually that'll probably turn into more, especially now that people know that we're official over there, whereas before it's been people have raised money specifically for a specific event in the States. So I'm looking at it as, okay, let's consolidate, let's raise funds so that when there's that green light happens, it's not like I've kind of gone into this total despair and what the hell's the point. And actually we've got some, you know, we've got some funds in the, you know, and we can't spend funds on anything at the moment because, you know, I'm not taking Person X to a gig tomorrow. So, you know, yes, we'll take Person X, who we were meant to take, will happen in the future, but we will, you know, we're kind of, raising money. So we've got a kitty so that when it's a green light, we don't have to kind of go, oh shit, when the hell, how are we going to get it? There will be money when you just go, yeah, that's doable, you know. But I honestly, it was initially, it was like, it was, you know, what the hell is the point? Why am I doing this? I've got to give up. There's no, it really was. I mean, it was like, I might as well shut this down. And then it was like, take a breath. And it was a long breath before it came back to like, okay, you know, we've got inventory of posters in the office. So we started, you know, auctioning and moving them. And, you know, and now it's just like, okay, you know, it's we're in a holding pattern. And rather than just hold, let's use this space to try and grow and, you know,
right on.
see what happens. And when, you know, when gigs come back, have the funds in place so we can just go, yeah, it's happening, you know.
I think you can't handle it better than that. You know, I was thinking about it as you were just kind of walking through what your experience has been like. And one of the things that I've always personally enjoyed about our relationship is that even if it's just a note through email, is that, you know, we'll always address and be honest about a tough time. Like, you know, you'll say to me in an email, I'll say to you in an email, like, this sucks right now. I almost packed it in today. I almost lit the whole thing on fire. And then, you know, one of us will respond like, you got this, or something like that. Or, you know, it's probably seems subtle, or it seems like, you know, we're just kind of reacting to the thought. But I don't know. I've always appreciated that about our dialogue, is that we're not going to hide that. And then the other person is always there to be like, shut up, get up. You know, like,
I
hear you, but keep going.
Yeah, and I mean, it certainly wasn't on my sort of, careers day, become a, drug addict, homeless and what have you. But because of that, going into rehab and taking it seriously, it taught me to tell the truth and be honest, and there's been times when we haven't even had £100 in the bank, and there's been, and it's been like, God, could we pay rent on the office this month, let alone anything else, and there have been times where it's like, what the hell am I doing? And as I've mentioned to you before, it's not like, Jimmy Page is my grandfather and I've got every connection in the world. I mean, I don't have, it's not like I can ring up so-and-so and he'll, from band X, who's a superstar, and go, yeah, I'll open all these doors for you. It's that, I had no connections at the beginning, and I ain't got a whole lot more 6 years later,
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just, there's been times when it's not easy. I mean, I would love to have a portfolio, or go into the olden days, a Rolodex with, oh, okay, there's Ozzy's like, yeah, I need something from Ozzy, I can ring him, I can do this. I don't have them, and it's a lot of it's a wish and a prayer. A lot of people might well imagine that we get donated every single ticket. I would say of the 60 give or take shows we've done, maybe half have been donated if we're lucky. The rest come out of our pocket. And a big show these days is going to cost £100, $100, and that's two of us, because I always have an assistant, two of them, sometimes three if it's, if we can pull it off, and all of a sudden that's $600-700 just for the tickets, let alone all the peripherals that come in, and one thing a lot of people often ask is, what is the cost of a show? And it's on average, and I'm sure on average, just the not the overheads of office and that, but just the costs of, give or take, £1,200, which would, per show. That's with tickets, merch, trip to the hot dog stand or whatever if they're hungry, or a drink, a meal beforehand, etc. We always go and visit with them first, and except for it's in the States, I'm not going to fly and visit someone for an hour. We'll do that over Skype, but I go and visit someone if they can't do it in, early in the day. I might have to stay over because you can't get a train back late or whatever. So yeah, it's, and we don't have a smorgasbord of, sponsors and people behind us going like, yeah, there's 50 grand to help you out because we know what you do, or hotel chain X going, yeah, we'll give you 50 rooms a year. It's very much, it's ground up.
Yeah. Well, that's an amazing journey that you have been on, and that you take your guests on. And do you find 5-6 years deep, you're like 2 years ahead of me in terms of launch. I launched in end of 2016, but somebody said to me recently that if I had done this strictly to make money, right, just to try and chase dollars, I would have folded. I would have collapsed already. I wouldn't keep it, which is 100% true. There are days like for me too, like you said, where I'm like, what the hell am I doing this for? I pour so much of myself into it, and I'm exhausted, and what the hell am I doing? I also have another job sometimes that I don't want to do anymore. I only want to do this. And then, you get some sort of feedback or some sort of reward or some sort of email or contact or message from somebody that said something, that caught something that you wrote or tuned into an interview and connected deeply with something. And then you're like, that's it. That all of that other negativity garbage gets washed away by that one comment or by that one email, or in your case, probably that one show. But do you find too that, like, because you're coming from that place that you're coming from, that's a big reason why you're still thriving and still going, as opposed to like, what's the money situation, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it turned, you know, very quickly from doing, you know, it sort of being part-time, what I could give it, to pretty much full-time, you know. If it was about money, I certainly wouldn't be paying myself less than minimum wage, you know. And in terms of one of the most, or possibly the most satisfying thing, isn't necessarily, I mean, being at the show, seeing the person is amazing, you know, and at the end of it, you know, the thank you, the goodbye, this, that, and the other. But I think the bit that touches me most and keeps, you know, that sort of faith alive is because, as you know, you've read our stories. It's not about let's do a pretty picture and say how awesome we are. You know, we will tell, with permission, the truth, and sometimes the truth isn't pretty, you know. And what really touches me and tells me that, as much as, you know, we're not millionaires and etc., and have a smorgasbord of famous people wanting to get on board, is when, you know, we've told a story about X and then you get a comment from, you know, a random person who's saying, do you know what? I went through exactly the same thing when I was 10, 15, 20, 30. It still affects me. You know, and I know exactly what it's like. And you can, you know, these guys will look after you. You'll go to the show. You'll have a great time. And for someone who's a total stranger to actually be that vulnerable to say, I've gone through depression or what have you, is powerful. And that immediately sort of segues neatly as we took someone who had survived, you know, I mean, domestic violence is never good, but this was pretty, you know, that was on the top end of the scale of really awful domestic violence. To see Eddie Vedder in Amsterdam last year, whichever, yeah, I get confused. Yeah, and
It was probably 19, right?
yeah, and I think in a way, what encapsulates what Given to Live is about is, we were, you know, at a bar having a meal, almost, you know, 50 yards away from the venue, and people who'd read the story were coming up, and I'm sat there, you know, at times in tears with the woman and 4 other women who had read the story, wanted to join in, and saying, I've been through domestic violence, I'm going through it. And to see that created is just like, you know, I didn't expect that to happen, you know. And you know, and for people to share that sort of a story is why with permission, I'll tell the truth. It's very easy to kind of go, hey, we took this person to see Eddie, or we took this person to see this, you know, and just make it a happy, clappy story. And that was so moving to see, you know, strangers connect and go, you know, I'm in it right now. I got out of it and I know what it's like, and you've done amazingly to get out of it. And I'm sitting there just, you know, so proud isn't the right word, just so touched by seeing that this crazy idea I had has brought these people together. And then within that story, because there was the mother and the daughter had their own shows, to see how many people got behind them, and then also hearing from the mum how many people had privately messaged, because, you know, it's a very delicate subject, you know, that, You know, that's important. And that's why, you know, yes, if it's a Pearl Jam show, it's a perk for me, you know, because it's my favorite band, you know. But to see Luke, who's been bullied, etc., because he's different, because he's autistic, at Avenged Sevenfold, which to me was just like, you know, really heavy metal and noise. But, you know, to see him, and again, to have people sending him messages, and I know that he has friends from it, whereas he was totally isolated, and he has a Facebook page that mum keeps an eye on to make sure they're the right people, you know.
Yeah.
I never expected that, or the messages where that people have said, thanks for saving my life. You know, that wasn't my intention. My intention was just to say, you're going to have a hell of a night, you know. So yeah, when things are a struggle, it's hard to remember those things. But yeah, I mean, if Jimmy Page is watching, which I don't think he is.
He might be. He watches Artist Waves live streams all the time. He even trolls me. I gotta kick him out sometimes.
Yeah, well, yeah. But I mean, it would be lovely to get that, you know, additional support. So, you know, at the moment, you know, we're not on it. Oftentimes it's a knife edge. Oftentimes I've had to, you know, borrow money to make sure the show goes ahead, or, you know, take money, you know, I don't have any savings anymore, because it's like, I'd rather make sure that person goes to a show than go, well, actually I'm keeping hold of my savings. You know, it's, if I'm going to be authentic and genuine about this, I'm not going to turn around and say, sorry, I've got some savings, but you can't have them, you know?
Yeah. Man, I get chills just like hearing you tell these stories and see the heartfelt place that it comes from. Like, we were talking a little bit about Johnny and Steph earlier in Fenway, and I just remember, I don't know if you sent it to me or something, or if I, you know, I got to be a small part of their journey, but there's a picture of them in a park bench in Boston outside of Fenway, and you know, they got their bags of merch, they got their poster, their ticket, and T-shirts and stuff, and he's got his arm around her, and man, they just look so happy, and they just look so like in the moment of the experience that you guys are giving them and gave them. And I think about, like, that picture is just so vibrant in my mind of them too, and then getting to meet them, it just backed it up. But I want to ask you personally, you provide these life.
Sorry.
No, man. See, this is what I'm talking about. You come from such a special place.
Yeah, I mean, it was so special. And as I said, Steph died a couple of maybe 3 weeks, but probably more like 2 weeks ago. And it's, you know, yeah. So yeah, and that was, you know, every show's special, but it was like people who weren't even into Pearl Jam, who were friends of theirs, knew that there wasn't, you know, I mean, she had kind of outlasted what was they expected, and came in from, you know, all over the country so they could be together, just, you know, one last time the gang could be together, you know. And I remember that picture on that park bench. Yeah. So yeah.
It's a beautiful memory. I gotta ask you though, you're providing all these amazing experiences for people and these life-changing moments that comes from such a remarkable place. Do you ever, you touched upon it a little bit, but do you ever have a moment for yourself where maybe it's at a show, maybe it's after the show, maybe it's at the restaurant, or maybe it's when you're home and the experience is done, where you sit down for a minute and you appreciate your own moment of either what you accomplished, maybe a combination of what you have accomplished personally and what you have built with your own hands, and what you just maybe provided to somebody else? Like, that's a lot right there. But the question is, do you ever take a moment for yourself to appreciate it?
I find it very difficult. I'm very good at giving myself a hard time, and you know, it should be better, whatever it is. I mean, the shows itself, I know 9 times out of 10 it gets done right, you know. We have had bad experiences where we've been taken advantage of once, which hurts, you know. But other than that, it's kind of, yeah, I mean, you know, it's always there is this thing inside of me. I should be doing better. I should be bigger. I should be more, whatever it is, to make it grow so that we're not struggling. Or if I'd done this, or if I knew this, I would have so and so would be on my side. But then, and that's part of my nature, unfortunately. But especially Steph and Johnny D, and and it's like with Johnny, it's like it's not in a situation like that. It's not just the person who has cancer. In that situation, she has, her and Johnny had been together for God knows how long, so obviously in love, and to me it was as much for Johnny as it was for her, and I just remember writing a story, and it was like he's having to catch these grains of sand. You may remember the sort of doing the catching sand thing. And I'm, it's not my goal to become friends of people out of this, but out of that particular one, and some others, but it's like, we get messages of thanks, and this, and when we do, it's like, again, it's, what you did for us is, and our friend, and then that's when I kind of go, yeah, there are struggles, and there are tough times, and there are those moments where there's 3 months between a show, which isn't necessarily anything fault other than the way the tours are scheduled. But then it kind of will be like, even though I'm not doing anything, it feels like I'm not doing something, because I should be doing a show every 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I mean, it's in reality, I could probably do one every. There's so much work goes into one show from start to finish to organize it. You could probably do one every 3 weeks, But if there's that gap, it's like I do go into a sense of I'm doing nothing, even though actually I'm raising money, or trying to get a connection here, or reaching out to artists to see if they'll but which is just as important, because without that the show doesn't happen, but do I give myself enough of a pat on the back, for want of a better way of putting it? Probably not. No. Without probably not.
Well, I'll do it for you, because you guys, I mean, I have no problem saying how awesome you and the whole group is, and the whole organization is. And in fact, I would scream it from the top of any grandstand, because I've seen it in action. I've got to know you, and you're a true artist. You're never satisfied, man. Your approach is artistic, and that's the approach of always wanting to keep going, man. So whatever you've been doing, and whatever you guys continue to do and find new ways to navigate this path that you built, man, it's remarkable. It doesn't take the show or the actual experience to go from start to finish for your organization to inspire. Like, just the intent alone, and the willingness to try this and to keep doing it, and to see how authentic you are and genuine you are, is inspiring. I know what it takes behind the scenes to some degree, and I often think that a lot of my approach which is not necessarily, I would never say, I'm not doing half the amount of life-changing things that you're doing, but I would never be Artist Waves the way Artist Waves is if it wasn't for us connecting early on in my building, for lack of a better term. So I thank you more than I should. I thank you not enough, face to face, on how much you and I mean, everything you do inspire me personally and Artist Waves, man.
I really, really appreciate you saying that, and it's very touching. And as you were talking, you know, it would be so easy to get an application and go and buy a pair of tickets and send them in the post, you know. And I know that there'd be people who would probably tear them up and say we can't afford to get from A to B, because let's be honest, not everyone lives, you know, in England where we are. No big there isn't a big venue, you know, so you have to travel, you know. And if you're looking at the even bigger bands like a Guns N' Roses, a Pearl Jam, yeah, you know, that you've got to go up to London. That's going to cost you, if you want to take your son, daughter to see their favorite band, it's going to cost you hundreds of pounds, you know. And so if we just went, yeah, brilliant, there's a pair of tickets to Guns N' Roses, they're not going to be able to go, or they're going to get into horrific debt, you know, just to be able to. And that's, you know, I know I've had my struggles, you know, and yes, it's drugs and alcohol, and if people know about those things, you know, it's not we're bad people, it's not a career choice, you know, it's a way of managing stuff that's gone on in our history, you know. And it's given me, you know, an insight into something bigger, thankfully. You know, there is, you know, I'd rather there are better ways of finding out insights than ending up overdosing and being homeless and living on the streets. But it's given me a picture of, I want that person, you know, to know that whatever they've gone through or are going through, you doesn't matter, you're special. Because I know in times of my life I felt like I'm not even worth existing, you know, and I know I'm not alone in that. And that's why we do it the way we do it, you know. That's why our, as I said, I hate the word slogan, is because you matter, you know. And for you to appreciate what we do, it's touching, you know. And yeah, I'm very moved about that, which is why I'm talking a lot, because when I feel anxious and touched, I kind of like will talk over the feelings. But yeah, I'm very appreciative of what you said.
Right on, man. I appreciate you always being there for us too, and making me feel that I'm doing the right things in my own way. So man, I don't want to hang up. Like, we've already gone 45 minutes, but I don't care how many people are tuning in. I don't care if it's nobody. I don't want to hang up. I could keep talking to you all day. And also I think, like, assess the circumstance for a minute, you know, like assess what's going on everywhere, where we're at. There are no concerts. There's no anything. There's anxiety everywhere. You know, I think we've come a long way in 2 months, I think. But still, you know, like, everything for the most part is still shut down. We're not as it was. It's very easy to fall away right now and to feel awful, you know? And if you don't work at it, if you don't make a full-time commitment to mind control or to being present or positive, optimistic, then this could really suck for you right now. And it could suck for a lot of people. But your message, even now, even without having concerts, without creating all of this experience, your message, and that the fact that you're you reached out to me to talk to you about this today, and for us to do this, like, it's louder now than maybe it would be if this wasn't going on. I don't know, like, it's very relevant.
Yeah, I mean, and if this wasn't going on, we wouldn't be doing this, because we would be doing what we do, and there wouldn't, unless one of us had this idea of, oh, let's do this alongside what we're already doing, it wouldn't be happening. So, whether it was seeing you doing stuff, or I suddenly thought I've got to do something other than just try and keep fundraising, is like we've been reaching out to some of the artists that we've worked with, to do something similar, so we got Dan, Dan Mumford, Steve, Thomas, Christoph Damarachi, Tim from Nakatomi, who does, who's big on the Metallica stuff, and that's really exciting, and just, it's because I'm very privileged, I know, and I never expected this side of it, we ended up getting meet and greets, through luck and perseverance and this, that, and the other. And seeing what happens, as from a fan's point of view, you go to the show at whatever time, there's a band, you watch it and go. But I've, remember one time having to meet a tour manager at 2 o'clock to talk us through how they're going to do the a meet and greet with someone we took. And I go into the venue and he says, you're going to be here. We've had a long chat and how it's going to work. And then he says, right, you're going to come through this way. And I walk in and I'm like, it's 2 o'clock, and by now it's probably 2:45. And I'm like, you do realize you haven't got a stage there? And he went, yeah, this is a nightmare venue. We've got a big stage set. It's a small venue. It's a nightmare for us to get into, but don't you worry, by doors at 6, it'll be open, and it's kind of seeing those things behind. And I met, Diony at 2, as I said, looked as fresh as a daisy. By the time he came with a bundle of merch for our guest at 11 and a bit after the show, wiped out, and these are the things that, why really would I think about? But I've been educated, you may well know the merch on Pearl Jam is crazy, and I've reached out to Mr. Tisa, Chris, to see if he'll come on and have a chat, because it's one thing, just when it's people just pick it up on the way in, but when I've been and seen queues at 7 o'clock in the morning, for Pearl Jam stuff. It's like, how do you deal with it? So I've had a lot of privilege of seeing so much more, and gotten to know through a friend of ours, somebody who works with a very big band, and he, and learning from them, that it's not just a gig, how much go, it's a real privilege and a real eye-opener, because as I said, from the age of 15, I'd just rock up with my ticket, sit down in my seat, or if it was stand, and there it is, it's a show. And it wouldn't cross my mind that anything happens other than they play music, So it's been amongst other things, an incredible privilege to see things from behind the scenes, that I would never have thought of in a million years,
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. It's pretty cool.
It's and the bigger the show, it's mind blowing.
Yeah.
It's absolutely mind blowing. We did a thing with Ghost, and their tour manager was amazing. He gave us a tour, took the kid out on the stage, and it's just like massive production. I mean, literally, obviously it's a production, and you're just seeing this, and he's explaining, and he's explaining how the earpieces work on the, and I'm like, they just play guitars, you know what I mean? And it's, yeah, I mean, it's those, yeah, like you asked me, do I sort of give myself a pat on the back or whatever? But when I sit and talk to someone like you now, it's kind of like all these things that kind of remind me how, yeah, I mean, like we spoke about it, is, you know, I'm not here making millions out of it by any stretch of the imagination. If anything, I'm getting into debt out of it. But it's like I'm incredibly privileged, not only to be able to give the gift, but also to learn the bits that I've learned along the way, you know, which I would never have learned, you know. The only negative thing is going to a gig is no longer going to a gig for me anymore in so many ways, because immediately I'm thinking I should be taking someone to this show, even if it's for me, and shit, can I get something from this for Given to Live that might be useful? And it's very hard to sit and relax and kind of go, yep, you're watching this, and you know, and I'm, you know, was going to see Pearl Jam obviously this year, but also there was Rage, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to see Rage Against the Machine and the Black Crowes, you know. The Black Crowes were my first, well, after Zeppelin, they were my first favorite band, and then, you know, and then Pearl Jam, and it's like, oh man, I'm not even going to get to see the Black Crowes, and that really was going to be like, that's a Tom show, not a, I am not going to think about Given to Live once, you know, I don't care, you know, I'm not going to, it's, yeah, that's the one, not negative, but it's kind of, there's always that thought of, what can I do for Given to Live here? Is there something I can do? And, you know.
I'm the exact same way. I went to Foo Fighters about a year ago without any extracurricular around it, and I was like shaking. Like I should be.
Yeah.
An interview. I shouldn't. Like I'm the exact same way. Real quick, we have like a minute before Instagram's lives caps at an hour, so I don't want us just to go blank. So I just want to say in closing, so we don't get just cut off. Tom, I got nothing but love for you guys, for Given to Live. Any which way Artist Waves can ever be partnered with you or along the way with you, I'm always there and always in. I thank you personally. I thank you on behalf of everything I do for doing what you do, and for our friendship, man. So I owe the next trip for me is out to your neck of the woods.
Well, when you do, you're more than welcome. And as I said, we're a 501(c), and we're going to focus on the East Coast because it makes more sense. So there's a good chance we'll run into each other again in the not too distant future when the gigs happen.
Right on.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Jeff, and thank you so much for having me and letting me talk about this, and seeing your face, you know, again is a good thing.
Right on. Well, stay safe out there, Tom.